Hello, and welcome to part 2 of how to model a sci-fi robot in Blender 2.9. This is part 2 of a series that I'm doing, and part 1 will be linked down in the description below, so if you haven't checked that out already, click down there. But yeah, in the last part we managed to make the body, the head, and the arms, and in this one we'll be doing the hip, torso, and legs. So, let's get started. So to start with the hip, you wanna select like the body that you have, and you wanna create like a socket for the hip that we're gonna be attaching to the body that's gonna be connected to the torso. So to do that, go into edit mode with this body by pressing tab while selecting this mesh. Then go onto the bottom, be in vertex selection mode, and select this face right here. Then press Control and plus and select 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 should be enough. Then select 5 edge loops and then extrude them inwards by pressing E. And then like not inwards but upwards, I guess. Then yeah, extrude them upwards and then press scale and Z and then press 0. That will make the face completely flat. And yeah, that's basically the socket all done. Then just bevel this edge right here. So for the hip, you want to press Shift A, then add in a UV sphere. Then move this sphere up and like scale it down so it roughly fits inside of the socket right here. Then make it so that half of the sphere is visible, a bit less maybe. Yeah, then go ahead and add a subdivision surface modifier to it. Then shade smooth. So for the other part of the hip, simply duplicate this sphere and then press Z to move it down. Move it like down halfway and then press scale and then Y. That'll scale it down on the Y axis. And then you want to like create this shape right here of like this disc. Then move it up like so. And yeah, that is basically our hip all done right there. Maybe like scale it down generally also. Like I think that we can scale it up a bit on the y-axis and then yeah, just move it up a bit. That'll look a bit nicer. Like so. That looks pretty good. So firstly select the lower hip and then press Shift S and select cursor to select it and then press Shift A and add in a cube. Then go to front view and move it down a bit. Then just scale it down so it's roughly the size of what I've shown. Move it down to the lower hip and then scale it on the x-axis so that the disc of the lower hip fits inside of the cube. Maybe scale it down a bit more on the y-axis. Also scale it down on the x-axis because not the whole disc will be inside the torso. After that, scale it up on the z-axis. Scale it on the x-axis so that it is completely square like shown here. Then select the cube, go into edit mode, and then turn on extra view. Go into edge selection mode and select these two edges right here and then move them inside like shown right here. Select this face right here and scale it up on the x-axis, which will result in the face being a bit wider on the x-axis. I'll just move this edge a bit inwards as it looked a bit off. And as I say, this doesn't need to be completely precise. I'm pretty sure that mine's off too. Add 2 loop cuts here and then set the pivot point to median point and then scale the 2 edge loops on the y-axis. Then move the top face up a bit. Select these 2 edges right here and then move them down on the z-axis. After, add 3 more edge loops to this part right here. Select these middle vertices and then move them down using proportional editing. Then add 3 loop cuts to the side and select these 2 vertices and move them up. So it kind of looks like a ball shape. And yeah, we're getting closer to the torso. But I'll just scale the whole thing up on the y-axis in object mode. That looks a bit better. Now you can select these edge loops on the side right here and then move them up to make it look a bit more square-like. Then select these 4 vertices right here and scale them down on the y-axis so it creates like this curve on the front. So that makes it look like the torso is wrapped around the lower part of the hip, and that's exactly what we want. And then select like these 6 vertices right here and then move them up on the z-axis. Then isolate the object by pressing slash on your numpad and then selecting these 2 vertices, then pressing S and X to scale it up on the x-axis to create this curve on the outer side. And then select these 2 vertices and move them down, disable proportional editing, and then just move them down. And just like that, the hard part is already done. Then just go into object mode again and scale the whole thing down on the x-axis. That looks a bit nicer. Then add 2 edge loops to the side right here and select these faces. And before we do anything, go back into object mode and apply all transform. After, go into edit mode and turn all these faces into circles by clicking on the loop tools and then click circles. Then set transformation orientation to individual origins and scale the circles down. As they are the sockets for our legs, we can't just leave them plain. We need to inset them and extrude them inwards by pressing Alt E and then selecting extrude faces along normals. And don't forget to bevel the edges. Then just add a subdivision surface modifier and then crank the level up to 2. And that's our torso done. Okay, so now to the legs. For the legs, what you want to do is to add in a sphere by pressing Shift A, and then under Mesh, add in a UV sphere. Then move it up on the z-axis and move it along the y-axis and scale it down so it roughly fits inside of the socket right here that we have in our hip. And yeah, like most of the sphere of the leg is actually gonna be visible. I found that looks a bit more cool, but of course you can do as you please. I'm just gonna like have this little part of the sphere inside. Everything else is gonna be visible. Then move it a bit on the x-axis so it fits more perfectly. Now you want to do the same trick as we did with the arm. Go into vertex select mode, select this tip, then press Control and then plus, and select 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, three times should be enough. Then extrude it downwards on the z-axis by 0.5. 0.5. No, 0.7. Yeah, 0.7. 0.65 actually. Yeah. 0.65. So extrude it along the z-axis by 0.65 by simply just typing 0.65 on your numpad and then press enter. Then make the face completely flat by scaling it on the z-axis and then pressing 0 and enter. And that's basically like your upper leg done already. And yeah, you can just add a subdivision surface modifier right here and then just add, actually you can just like bevel these edges right here to make it look a bit nicer, a bit more clean, and also like add these edge loops right here. Just makes the whole thing look a bit nicer. So now to the joint. The joint's gonna be quite easy as we already have like a joint. So I'm just gonna select a part of this, like one slice of this, and you can do that by hovering over any part of the joint, like any joint, and then pressing L. That was like the whole separate mesh, and then you can press Shift D and move it anywhere. Then press P, and then click selection, and that will like separate this object, the mesh that's selected, and then select the object, right click, and then set the origin to geometry. Then just move this joint down to your leg, like so, both on the front view and the side view, and then rotate it on the x-axis by negative 90 degrees, and then just move it in like so. Then just move it in and scale it down. And that should basically be it. Like, we will be adjusting the joint afterwards, after we have added our lower leg. But yeah, for the lower leg, start by adding in a cylinder by pressing Shift A and then adding in a cylinder, and then just move it up, and then scale it down until it's the same size as the upper arm right here. Move it around, scale it down on the z-axis, scale it up, whatever you find most, like whatever you need to do, just make it like the same size as the upper arm. Then move it down, and then we want to do the same trick as the arm right here. Go into edit mode, press Ctrl R to add a edge loop, left click and right click to cancel its movement. Then scale it up like quite a lot, and then press Ctrl B to bevel it, and then add quite a few edge loops, 4 or 5. Yeah, 5 edge loops should be enough. And that is already our leg done, lower leg done. And now add a subdivision surface modifier. Go into edit mode and bevel these edges by pressing Ctrl B and then bevel. And yeah, that is basically it. So now we can like add the joint that we have. Then we want to do the same process as the arm again by just duplicating it, and then on the y-axis duplicating it once more, and then drag it over to the other side. Then we want to select both of these, then press R and then Y to rotate it on the y-axis, and then 180 degrees. And that's basically it. Then just move your leg along and up so that it like the joints go into the leg, and then just select these and the joints and then move it down. And yeah, that should be basically the lower arm and joints done. So just like the upper arm first then, and then you can maybe hide these by pressing H. Selecting them and pressing H will hide the selected objects. Then select this, select all of these edge loops by pressing Ctrl plus, and just like selecting all of these, then press I to insert them, and then extrude them inwards. And yeah, do the same thing to this arm. Instead, you don't need to like do the Ctrl plus thing, as this is like one whole face, so just insert and then extrude it inwards, and then press Ctrl B. And yeah, that is everything done. Now you can press Ctrl H. That'll bring back the hidden objects. And I think like I'll move these, like all of the joints and the lower leg a bit down. So yeah, that looks a lot better. And yeah, that's our leg part done. So for the feet, what you want to do is to add in a cube. And then move it along, go into front view if you want, move it along, and then go into side view, scale it down on the z-axis, and also on the y-axis, so it's like quite thin, like so. And then you want to go into edit mode, and then on the front of this one, select this edge right here, and then press Ctrl B to bevel it. And before you do that, sorry, I forgot that you need to apply all of the transforms. When you do some scaling in object mode, it can like mess up the normals and all this stuff. Just apply all of the transforms, that will fix all of the stuff. And now you can go into edit mode and then select it and then bevel it. And yeah, it will be like more of a natural one. Then just bevel this edge a little bit right here, and that should be pretty good. And then I'm gonna select this object and duplicate it, move it along on the y-axis, and I'm gonna move these up a bit. Yeah, move them a bit together so that they're you can like, if you go into front view, you'll see this grid a bit more than one of these like bigger blocks. So now just move this down a bit, and then add in another cube by pressing Shift A and cube. Scale it down and move it up a bit and move it over here. Then scale it down on the z-axis so it's like quite thin, like so. Then scale it on the y-axis so it goes into the feet, and then scale it on the x-axis. So scale an x, and then just scale it so it fits roughly like so. And yeah, that's like, the feet is actually real simple, and that's like the back of your feet done, I guess. And then you can like duplicate this whole joint thing, and then yeah, duplicate it down right here with the feet as well. So then like just move the joint together and like into the middle of this leg, and then move the feet over here, and like to position your feet more correctly, you can like move these feet in and up so that like one joint fits into your feet. Do the same thing to the other side. Actually, now that I think about it, that looks a bit odd. I'm just gonna like scale this one on the y-axis, and then move this one a bit out, and so do the same thing to that one. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Now just move this cube up here. And yeah, that's a part of your feet done. Okay, so for the other part, what you want to do is to press Shift A and add in a cube. Move it along right here. Then just scale it down so like the height is the same as if we were to place it like here, and then like the edge of here, the tip of the cylinder going along. Then just scale it down on the z-axis like so. That looks pretty good to me, maybe a bit more. So like you can see like the tip of the cylinder is like on pretty much aligned. I'll just scale it down a bit more. That works pretty good. Then just move it along so it's in the front. Scale it on the y-axis. Scale it on the y-axis, and then more on the x-axis, so it's like a bit more rectangular, but not that much again. Now you wanna select this edge right here, and then move it a bit down like so. And then you want to go back into object mode and add in a subdivision surface modifier. Crank this level up to 2, and then go back into edit mode. Then add a edge loop right here like so. Then add one more edge loop, and then like make it go all the way up here. Add another edge loop, and like move it all the way down here. And now that I think about it, I think it needs to be a bit taller, this one. So I'll just scale it on the z-axis like so. And yeah, that's quite a lot of our front foot already done actually. Maybe I can just move this. Actually, just dissolve this one. We don't need it by pressing Control X. And that's a part of our foot actually almost done. Then yeah, it's actually done. And then add shade smooth to it, and that's our foot done. Then you can align the bottom of the foot as good as you can. And now you can add this joint again to the foot by simply just duplicating it, moving it down, rotating it on the y-axis by 90 degrees, negative 90 degrees, and yeah, I'm just gonna scale this one back down on the y-axis, move both of these a bit closer, and then just selecting them and moving them along, and then scaling them down, like so. Actually, you don't need these two actually, now that I think about it. You just need one part. So just rotate this one on the y-axis by 180 degrees. Then actually scale this one up a bit. Move this one into this place that we have right here. This like area gap. Scale it down, maybe scale it up on the y-axis. And yeah, that's our foot done and dusted. Move both of these a bit in, I think. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And now we want to mirror it over to the other side as we did with the arm. And to do that, select the whole thing. Don't select the torso. And then press Shift. And as this is like completely plain and linear, you don't need to like mirror it. You can just move it along on the y-axis and it will be fine. And yeah. And the first thing I notice right now is my legs are quite like small in comparison to like the rest of our body. So I'm just gonna select this part right here, and deselecting this one. Actually, we want to have that selected, then scaling it all up like so. It looked quite odd before. So maybe just scale this down a bit, move it upwards, and selecting all of these and moving them upwards. And yeah, then maybe scaling this one up on the y-axis. And then moving the whole thing up into it a bit more. So thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like so that other people can find this video. And the next part, I believe we'll be doing the materials and a bit of lighting and rendering. And that video will be out as soon as possible. If you're watching this in the future and the video is already out, it will be on your end screen right now. So I'll see you on the next one.